everybody, this is going to be a 2-for-1 video. So first of all, I want to talk about the SMB cold air intake I installed, and then I'm going to get under my truck and show you I'm taking the airbags back off of my truck. I'm keeping the lines in place. I'm going to use them when I tow, but for everyday driving, I'm taking them off. So I want to go through this thing first. I really like the looks of this. The install was very straightforward. I made an install video, but halfway through, I went to get online to see how to do these sensors over here, and I actually looked up the SMB install video, and it is so much better than what I was making. They had 2 or 3 people with cameras and getting in close to everything, way better angles, way better explanations. So I'm not putting my install video here. Go to the SMB website, look this one up, and then they have the install video linked on their site, and it is an amazing install video. It leaves nothing to the imagination. Everything you need to know to do it is in that video, step by step, in the proper order, and it's really not all that hard. I would say now that I've done it, I could probably do it in about 25 or 30 minutes. But watch the video, get out there. It might take you an hour, but it is not difficult at all. All you have to do is remove the airbox and put the new one in. You don't have to move anything else. You do have to swap a couple things over, but they explain how to get all these things off, how to change out grommets and things like that. So anyway, like I said before, I really like the looks of this thing. I went with the dry filter this time, only because when I had my M3, everybody said, do not put oiled filters in there. Oiled filters are terrible for turbochargers. I did a bunch of research and I just took that as gospel. I said, oh man, a bunch of people that own M3s, they must know what they're talking about. And I think after doing some research, that's only true if you over oil the filter after you've cleaned it, and then that oil gets sucked in and gets all gunked up all over the impeller blades, or if you don't oil it enough and a whole bunch of particulates and particles get through there and actually hit those impeller blades, and then it can damage it. But if you properly maintain an oiled filter, it will work just as good and actually provide a little bit more airflow, and you can clean it and clean it and oil it again and use it over and over. So I bought the dry one. I'm going to use this for 10 to 20,000 miles. At the 10,000 mile mark, I'll pull it out and hit it with compressed air from the inside to get some of the dust off. And then when I actually buy a new one, instead of buying a dry, I'm going to buy the oiled filter, put it on there, and then just go through the cleaning process. And I'm going to use the spray oil. The dripping oil, I think that's where the big issues people had. They overdid it. But now they have an aerosol spray oil, and it's, I mean, you could stay on there and oversaturate it and cause a problem. But if you just get it back to the original pink color just by spraying enough oil on there, you should be totally good to go. And there's a bunch of different videos on how to do that. I watched the CJ Pony video on it, and it made it make a whole lot more sense to me than all the rumors that I had heard about how bad oiled filters are for turbocharged cars. So, but I am not a mechanic. I can't say with personal experience that they're good, but based on the research I did and the people that I've discussed this with in the last 2 weeks, I really think the oiled is a good way to go. And if you're willing to pay 60 bucks every 10 or 20,000 miles to buy a new dry one, please go that route. But if you're interested in the oiled and you've heard that rumor as well, I mean, maybe there is still some truth to it, but from my research, you should be good. Now, inside the truck with this, I don't have microphones good enough to pick up ambient noise that could tell the difference between before and after. But I have driven this truck for 20,000 miles with the stock airbox, and I know what that sounds like. And then this morning I drove it around after I installed it. I went to Home Depot, I got on the freeway, I did a couple things, and you can definitely hear more induction noise. You hear the turbo spool a little bit, but you don't hear any of the blow off coming through. So this is a wastegate. This isn't a wastegate to atmosphere. It goes back into the intake. So it's not like you hear that psh noise, and you don't even hear it through here. You do hear a little bit of a little more induction noise, like I said, and a little bit of turbo spooling. I didn't floor it and get it up to like 6,000 RPM to have it blow off in like 3rd gear where there might be more pressure. At that point, maybe you would hear a little more, but once you're going that fast, the wind noise from my truck with all the stuff I have on it overwhelms any engine noise. I mean, I can still hear the exhaust, I can still hear that it's running, but it's not all that great in sense of I can't hear everything that's going on under the hood. So overall, I'm really happy I did it. The intake itself is bigger. There is a little thing on the side that you can take off to let even more air in, but I only want the air coming in from up here. Off to the side, you're pulling air. Yes, it's over by the fender, but this whole area gets hotter than blazes, and I think your charge temperatures and intake temperatures will be way higher if you keep this flap off on the side. So I kept it on. I think this is more than enough air to get in there and get pulled in and charged. So like if I was going to like a stage 3 tune where I'm trying to make like 600 horsepower, yes, I might need more intake space than this. But for what it is, I think it's really good. I like that it has the clear top so I can visually inspect the filter and see when it gets dirty. Like I said, this door is staying on there. And overall, I'm really happy with the looks of it. It looks, I don't want to say it looks OEM, but it looks very good in here. And I think once it's all the same amount of dirtiness, it'll look like it should have come this way. I mean, I don't think any stock filter comes with a see-through pane on top, but it is really cool. I mentioned the intake temperature and the charge temperatures. The last time I did a long road trip at 70 miles an hour on the highway and really inspected intake and charge temperatures, it was 25 degrees cooler and not humid. So I don't think it would be fair for me to go out and compare the two with this intake to the stock intake based on just the temperatures out here right now. I don't expect that it's going to be a whole lot different, to be honest. It's more that you're able to let more air through. So if anything, I mean, as you're sucking more air in, you're sucking more ambient air from outside, and it has less time to sit in here in the engine bay and warm up. But your intake air sensor is right here past the intake. So you're sucking air in, it's going through the filter, and then it's getting measured temperature-wise right here. So it only has a fraction of a second inside the engine bay before it gets measured. Then it goes through your turbos and comes back through, goes to their intercooler, and then it gets measured again for your charge temperature after it's been compressed, after it's gone through the intercooler, and it's about to go into the engine. So, and I think that sensor is right here. One of these two is, I think this one right here is your temperature sensor for the intake. So, like I said, I don't have good numbers for that. I don't expect it to be too much difference, but you are allowing more air to flow through, maybe a little bit better throttle response, definitely a little bit more induction noise inside the vehicle, and you can hear the turbo spooling a little bit. And I really think you're only hearing the passenger side turbo spooling a little bit more, but overall it's worth it. So S&B intake I think is a great option. Price-wise, it is priced extremely affordable. $350 for the entire intake and the filter and everything, and the tubes that come with fit perfectly. So I know the IndiCarbon is really cool looking, but I don't know how much I would be willing to spend $1,000 on an intake that is an IndiCarbon. They're really cool, but it's not that it's made out of carbon fiber. It is plastic with carbon fiber overlaid, so it looks really good, but you're not saving weight. And to be honest, this plastic intake is a solid option. So anyway, I know there are a couple other brands that make intakes. I really like this one. I waited for it because all of their other ones have been like really well received. All their tubing is really good. I'm not selling it. I paid my own money for it. This is what I, after all the research, installed on my truck. So take that for what it is. Now I want to get under the truck and show you the airbags. We're on the driver's side looking at the rear driver wheel, the front of the vehicles. That way there's the gas tank right there. Here is the differential right there, and then axle to the tire. So you're situated with where we are. This is your brake line. I'm keeping the brake line relocation. That's this little tiny piece of metal up here. It just moves the entire bracket about an inch to the left, to the rear of the truck. That's staying, but I took the entire airbag off. So there was a bracket down here that held the bottom of the airbag, and then another bracket up on the frame up here, and then the airbag was in between. There's not all that much room. There might be 6 inches of space between the axle and the frame right now. And when the airbag was in there, it was sandwiched down and only had about an inch of give. So when you go over a speed bump normally, you have 6 inches of the coilover with the active shocks to absorb that. But with these airbags on there, when I would go over a speed bump and the back of the truck would come down off the speed bump, it would only have about an inch, and the whole thing felt like there was just a solid chunk of rubber between the axle and the frame. If you ever drove an old truck that had bump stops, once you hit that bottom leaf and then you hit the bump stocks, you know what that feels like. The whole back of the truck just feels jarred. And I was only going about 4 or 5 miles an hour over the speed bump, and it just felt like I was hitting something. So I'm taking them off, and I want to show you, I already took the driver's side off. The airline is still zip tied up to that wiring loom, so I can get these things back on there in about 30 minutes. Just raise the truck up a little bit. You don't even have to take the wheel off. Now that I know what I'm doing, I can get them all reinstalled pretty darn quickly. But I want to show you on the passenger side how, this is just my truck sitting here. So that is how squished the airbag is right now. There's like minimal room for it to squish anymore. So really you only have about another inch of play when the suspension wants 6 more inches for the live valves to do their thing. So like I said, when you come over a speed bump and it needs to compress that chunk of rubber, it's jarring on the inside. So I'm taking them off, like I said. I wanted to love them. I wanted to keep them on there all the time and have this be a super useful thing, but it just ruins the ride of the truck. So I got a bunch of comments about how adding these airbags was gonna ruin the ride of the truck. I refuse to accept that, but you guys were 100% right. This suspension is so well tuned and there's not enough room in here for these shock absorber or for the airbags to be in there and work well with the live valve shocks. So you were 100% right. I do still intend to use them. I will just reinstall them when I actually hook a trailer up. I'll take the hour or 45 minutes to reinstall them, hook up the trailer, do my whole drive, deal with it for like that one trip, and then take them back off. I almost thought about leaving the top hat bracket on there and just putting it back in, but I took that off too because the last thing I want is for the axle to actually go up and hit that bracket and either bend something or mess up the rear axle. So everything's coming off and I'm just gonna leave the airline zip tied in there. So anyway, that's the update. I don't know why I'm still laying under my truck to talk to you guys. I'm gonna put my microphone right here and get some noise from here, and then I'll pull it inside and see if you can even tell. I don't know how worthwhile that's gonna be. Okay, so that was the audio from outside, right near the front. I'm not sure how loud that was, but now we're gonna do that from the inside and you can hear what it sounds like. I'm gonna turn the AC off. This is with the door open so you can hear it. Now with the door closed, we're inside the truck. And now I'm going to go out and close the hood and do it again so you can hear. All right, hood closed, door open. You really lose a lot of that blow-off sound with the hood closed, and now with the door closed and the hood closed, still hear it. All right, everybody, so the airbags are off. The S&B intake is on. I love the sound of the intake. It sounds really good, but once you have your door closed and the hood down, you really can't hear a ton of that turbo noise or the blow-off noise or anything like that. As for the airbags, when I did my initial install video and my initial like flex test and stuff, I convinced myself that it was gonna be fine. I was confident that I was just feeling things that I didn't notice before, but the more I drove it, I realized this is definitely not the way this truck is supposed to ride. And based on what you saw during that install video, or just now when I took them off, that thing was compressed down pretty much as far as it could go. It might have had another inch of play, but then you just have all that rubber in there. It's not air pressure at all, it's just the chunks of rubber. And when you go over a speed bump really slow and those wheels are supposed to go up into the arches, it's hitting that rubber and just going straight to the frame, so it just feels jarring inside the vehicle. And I couldn't deal with that for the 98% of the time I'm driving around with just a little bit of weight in the back and not actually having them filled up because I have a trailer hooked up. So I took them off. I intend to put them back on anytime I'm gonna actually tow a horse trailer, or if I have to haul like 800 pounds for 1,000 miles. But if I'm just going to the dump that's like 10 minutes away, I'm just gonna let it ride low. As long as I'm not going over the 1,000 pounds that this thing's capable of putting in the bed, I'm just gonna let the suspension do its thing for short trips. So anyway, I wanted to kind of give an update to anybody else who thought, hey, I'm gonna get airbags because that guy said they're awesome and you can just drive around with them uninflated. I was wrong. Everybody in the comments who said, hey, that's gonna mess up your suspension in a big way, at first I didn't want to accept that, but you were 100% right. I could not, in good conscience, keep driving this Ranger Raptor around, knowing how good it could be and having it such a detrimental thing on the suspension the rest of the time. Like I said, they have their use, they have their value. On bigger trucks that aren't made for like, you know, off-roading and all that articulation, keep them on all the time. There are vehicles that come with air suspension on there, but for a Ranger Raptor, not something to have on there all the time, every day. And just wanted to give you the update. So I am not married to any of these. I pay my own money for them and I'm taking them off because I don't think it's worth having them on there all the time. So cheers, guys.